Hello, and thank you for coming to the McWaters Effect. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm looking at OAM. But first, I need you to hit like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. Now let's take a look at this video. Rep Wagner China's COVID secrecy violates international law. And there's a video here. We'll go ahead and watch it.
We're going to move on with GOP Representative Wagner saying China's effort to hide the origins of COVID-19 violates a 2005 international treaty which allows the U.S. to impose sanctions and seize Chinese assets to compensate victims of the pandemic. One American's John Hines spoke to Missouri lawmakers and has more from Capitol Hill.
We're here talking with Congresswoman Wagner. She's of the 2nd District of Missouri. And Congresswoman, I know you have legislation you've introduced regarding China and compensation for some people who have been going through this COVID-19 issue for a long time. What are you doing?
Well, first of all, I can say that the Chinese Communist Party systematically and intentionally misled, misrepresented, falsified, and covered up vital information that could have prevented a global pandemic, and they did so in direct violation of international law. China, along with another 195 countries, signed a treaty, a binding treaty, following SARS, and they did this in 2005, that said within a certain period of time, a short period of time, you must present information if you know that there was some kind of potential outbreak. So we have introduced, and I'm pleased to have a package that will hold China financially accountable for what they have done, and that is the Compensation for Americans Act. And this is going to freeze Chinese assets in the United States of America and also impose a number of sanctions to really, in an effort, John, to drive them to the negotiating table so that we can set up proper compensation for, just the toll that America has taken. Over 600,000 have lost their lives. 33 million Americans contracted COVID. Everyone has a COVID story to tell.
So talk a little bit more about this treaty. There's a treaty they have signed, and apparently they are breaking this treaty, and there is precedent for this. Talk about that a little bit.
There is. There was a binding international treaty after the SARS outbreak, which again began with a cover-up in China in 2005, that says within 24 hours of knowledge of a potential global health emergency, you must report to certain international agencies.
And then if you don't do that, there are certain penalties which get imposed. Is that
there should be, but there frankly are not enough. And the WHO has not held them accountable. And in fact, I think Tedros and others led to some of the cover-up. China knew about this in November. They did not even begin to report it to the international community until January. And quite frankly, they destroyed documents. There were researchers and doctors that went missing and were silenced. And they have a duty and an obligation to compensate Americans and to pay and be held financially accountable.
So this would be analogous to what has been done with Iran, for instance, yes, and maybe with Russia. Is that correct?
Well, and certainly with Germany, after World War II, goes back that far. We did this for Cuban Americans after Fidel Castro had taken power. It was done by the Trump administration.
And it also involves travel restrictions, if I'm correct.
Well, correct, and a series of government official sanctions, and we want to squeeze them, really in an effort to, as I said, drive them to the negotiating table, to sit down and develop a compensation package for Americans who have been so grievously destroyed.
What have you heard from your constituents in Missouri about this COVID-19 epidemic, the pandemic, and what have they been telling you, and what is their feeling about China's culpability, possibly, with regard to this virus?
I think people have gone through so many different stages of fear, of loss, of being frightened, and now they're angry. They want accountability, and I want to hold the Chinese Communist Party financially accountable for this.
Congresswoman Wagner of the 2nd District of Missouri, thank you for talking to us on One American News. Good to catch up with you.
My pleasure.
All right, guys, that's the end of the video, and I think it's a great idea, but I think the biggest problem you're going to have is who's the president. He's not going to sign this bill. And I doubt most of the Democrats are going to have anything to do with it. And I'll tell you one reason that would be the case. One word: racism. They're going to use that and say that people are going to use this for a reason to attack Asian Americans. It's complete horse crap. They're not going to use this to do that. They're not using this whole COVID thing to do that anyway. And they're going to blame white supreme pizzas for doing it, and they haven't been doing anything. I've never even met a white supreme pizza. You know what I'm saying? I have to use code words, guys, because they don't like that real word. But anyway, it just... Not only that, Biden ain't going to mess up that sugar daddy of his, China. No, he ain't going to do anything that's going to actually hurt China. But I think doing this bill will actually show people who is pro-China and who is not. That includes in the Republican Party. So that's why I'm actually want them to keep on going with it. Because I want to find out who is, and we need to get them out of office. But guys, that's all I got for you today. Please hit like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. Peace.